The chief of staff of Volodymyr Zelensky was forced to resign as corruption scandals continue to rock the Ukrainian regime, giving hundreds of billions of dollars to one of the most corrupt countries in the world. What could go wrong? Investigators seized entire safes full of cash as Ukrainian officials used code names like the Professor and Alibaba in order to conceal their identity. You guys really kept the cash in safes that could easily be raided? Complete amateurs. Think about the massive betrayal this is. These scumbags stealing aid and enriching themselves while promoting endless war with Russia, while the Ukrainian people suffer. This is why the Ukrainian people are outraged and why Zelensky is more unpopular than ever, and he will lose in a landslide if his corrupt regime ever held an election. The corruption and incompetence of Ukraine is so bad that the Western media is finally covering it, and the Western powers are finally thinking about getting rid of their puppet Zelensky. Now Europe is in complete disarray, as it's clear they have no end game in mind as the Ukrainian government continues to fall apart. NATO and the West just need to take the L and negotiate for peace.
What's poppin', my friends, my family? Welcome back, Nick of Primetime. You guys notice how none of the liberals are wearing Venezuelan flags in solidarity with the Venezuelan people? The same way that they wear the Ukrainian flags in solidarity with Ukraine. Why aren't like the average Democrat normie standing with Venezuela right now in the midst of Donald Trump's insane threats against the country? He's not even pretending to make a coherent argument, a rational argument for his military aggression against Venezuela. He's just making up some nonsense. And you know that the liberals are not standing with Venezuela. They're not standing with Maduro. I unapologetically stand with Nicolas Maduro. Why are the liberals who have Ukraine flags in their profile picture refusing to tell the truth about the reality that everything that the United States said about Venezuela was a lie? Maybe Venezuela is not Nazi enough for them? Maybe if Venezuela and Nicolas Maduro banned socialist parties and it was murdering ethnic minorities, maybe then the liberal class will stand with them. But we will get to that much sooner. I'm gonna cover a little bit of the corruption of the state that they do care for. So what is that? Is that just racism? Is that just them being useful idiots? They know exactly what they're doing. The same reason why Zohran Mamdani was repeating CIA propaganda against Venezuela right before this military campaign popped off. They know exactly what they're doing, and they are extremely racist, evil, and deranged. They don't get credit enough for that. How absolutely deranged these people are. I unapologetically stand with Nicolas Maduro. What's poppin', my friends? Oh yeah, no kick today. I'm streaming on X, Twitch, and YouTube. Oh shit, I forgot to Rumble too. Oh well, we just call this a YouTube exclusive. Damn, I forgot to get Kick and Rumble today. It's all good. Cause we're gonna have our homie Jamarl Thomas on. Jamarl been killing the game. Fantastic citizen journalist. I'm just trying to get on his level. You know what I mean? I'm trying to level up to all these big shots like Jamarl Thomas, Savvy Sav, and them. I appreciate all you guys who actually do watch me. Because we got a lot of breakdown today. You guys know I'm always in the lab cooking. Always in the lab cooking. So let's just dive right into this. Zelensky faces political peril as corruption scandal consumes top aid. And as I described in the hotspot video, there should be massive anger. I mean, there is massive anger in the Ukrainian state. This is why Zelensky would never in a million years hold an election. If he was to hold an election, he would lose in a complete landslide. The Ukrainian people seen how Zelensky sold them out. Yeah, you guys know my personal YouTube channel is popping now, man. We only been doing this for about a month. What's poppin'? Zoya's love, Zoya's life. But this corruption has been apparent in Ukraine. I covered this, 2 years ago, Zoya? Zoya, remember my fam? Remember how I covered the story how Ukrainian aid was audited? And they couldn't find only like 40% of the Ukraine aid that the United States sent over was accounted for. You had Seymour Hersh and many legitimate reporting on this, and the entirety of the corporate media called it a Russian hoax, Russian propaganda. You had a DHS under Joe Biden's administration that wrote a report outlining how they couldn't accurately track weapon shipments to Ukraine, and because of that, they was deeply concerned about a surge in the black market for guns for terrorists in Africa, for neo-Nazis who may be coming back home. They would worry about a black market boom in guns. These are things that are easily confirmable, information that's been out there. But isn't it interesting how Zoran Mamdani and Bernie Sanders and all the scumbag DSA, Hakeem Jeffries, Democrats, they will never call out Ukraine for their corruption. In fact, they support it. People like Matt Duss, the entirety of the NATO left. You know that Zoran Mamdani is part of NATO left. He's been avoiding talking about this topic like the plague. Zoran just came out with another interview repeating the narrative that Maduro is a tyrant who represses his political enemies. Zelensky in Ukraine repressed the political enemies. In fact, they banned socialist parties. They banned political opposition. You had the Banderite fascists in Ukraine who kidnapped and tortured people who they considered to be pro-Russian. Everything, and I cannot emphasize this enough, quite literally everything that they told you about the Ukrainian regime, about the Venezuelan Maduro government, it's true of the Zelensky Ukraine regime. But we live in a modern axis of evil where everything is inverted. You can't even get a Democrat to call any of this out. When it comes to Venezuela, Democrats are like, hey, Donald Trump, you need congressional approval to commit war crimes? We're upset because Donald Trump is committing war crimes without our approval. Come achieve congressional approval. That's the number one critique of the opposition party. It's a complete scam. In Europe, despite the complete exposure of the fraudulent government in Ukraine, which is, by the way, unelected, unlike Nicolas Maduro. Nicolas Maduro was democratically elected multiple times, so much so that the establishment has been in pure cult mode, and they realize that there's nothing they can do to get rid of the Venezuelan government. This is why they are resorting to war now, because the sanctions failed to win over the hearts and minds of the Venezuelan people. Meanwhile, they want us to stand with Ukraine, which is an undemocratic fascist country. What's poppin', Reina? Yeah, Democrats have been completely silent. Yeah, what's poppin', fam? Yeah, we've been calling out the money laundering. A lot of the Ukraine aid ended up in terrorist groups. We all know USAID was caught funding the Mujahideen and many other terrorist groups in Africa. But when confronted by the massive corruption, because France had a press conference today, wonder if I can find footage of this. I saw some footage floating around. No, the one I saw wasn't in English. That's why I didn't really bother digging it up. But the EU is harshly rejecting. Hell, here's I see RT tweeted a little bit about it. And the EU is essentially rejecting any premise of any sort of peace talks and negotiation, even though they completely lost. They're willing to completely destroy Ukraine as a country because it's a massive money laundering scheme. people like, why is the West so obsessed with continuing this war against Ukraine when they stand no chance? It's because the arms manufacturers are making big profit. Yeah, the EU has fallen to outright fascism, but they get no grief from. You see all the wave of leftists who are like, we gotta condemn China because China's not doing enough to resist the genocide in Gaza. Like, bro, these people got heat for China, and I've never seen them bring up the heat towards the EU. I said it many times before because I understand the criticism that some people have because they want everyone to do everything they can to stop Israel. But if you're one of the people who upset because China still trades with Israel, I always bring up the EU as an example. Because you guys know the EU is sending arms shipments to the UAE. The UAE is directly funding and complicit with the genocide in Sudan. The EU is directly financing that. It's directly sending weapons to Sudan that they know will funnel a genocide. So my rebuttal to people is, does China halt trade to the EU because the EU has gone full-blown fascist? Where does that end? Where does that end? Because if China refused to trade with the EU because of the genocide in Sudan, we're talking about complete economic collapse. Does China refuse to trade with the United States because all the crimes that the United States committed? You guys see how this quickly becomes destabilizing? And which is why I don't have any problem with China's position. They don't want to destabilize international trade based on foreign policy decisions that other countries made because they have a generally anti-imperialist mindset. Now, I understand why people want to live in a fairy tale. They want to live in a fairy tale where China can just economically shut down these countries. That's not the reality of what we're talking about. Massive pain that everyone will have to deal with. But if you believe that China should do that for Palestine, why not Sudan? Why not for the Congo? Why not for African lives? These are things I've been wondering. Why do people call for China to completely destroy international trade? And I think the world should react very definitively in response to Israel genocide. But why is Israel-Palestine way more important to people's mind than all the victims of the genocide in Sudan? Because if you want to have that same mentality, keep that same energy up for the EU. They never do. They never do. I understand that things are messy. China has to exist in this evil imperialist capitalist structure that the West enabled, and it's our job to end Zionism. It's the European job to end the genocide in Sudan, and to end our crimes. That's why I don't like. You guys see how if you go through this circle of blaming other countries that you're not involved with, you guys see how it never ends. You guys see how you never actually reach a coherent answer to these questions. The reason why people blame China and people in the West who enable Zionism, you got people who can't even stop watching Disney. Like, you motherfuckers can't even stop watching Disney, ESPN, and funding the Zionist regime, but they lash out at other countries because they know they're ultimately powerless. And how I mean, I don't want to be too judgmental because I understand it on the base point where you just want to lash out because you feel like you have no power. Now, that's not the way I roll, man. I think we need to take responsibility for the evils our government is doing and lead by example. And I think China is leading by example by, not funding wars and genocide. I'm glad you guys found me too, bro. I told you, man, our audience is slowly finding me, man. RBN has been shadow banned for quite some time. In RBN, we wanted to decentralize a little bit more, so our big tech overlords can't just take out one channel at once. So actually, I'm about 15 minutes in, so I'm gonna end the RBN stream because we have Jamarl Thomas, who will be joining us here very soon. He's our guest today. He's been dropping bangers too. So I'm gonna end the RBN stream. If you're watching on the RBN stream on YouTube, I am still streaming on my personal channel on Twitch and on X. I saw Rome. He dropped a banger stream last night. It's great to see Rome back, man. Rome been going through a lot. Make sure you guys keep Rome in the back of your head. Rome has been going through a lot of trauma. All right, let me get back to the story while I'm just ranting here. So the EU was meeting with Zelensky. Here's the meeting. Here's some footage of the meeting. It's been making a big deal because Macron is like the new leader. Like he's stepping up in front as the leader to reject any sort of small chance that Donald Trump may deliver on peace. I've played many times before. I don't believe Donald Trump is serious about peace. He set up these peace talks in order for them to fail, in order to further demonize Russia. I don't think they're a serious player. But as Macron has been rallying the European coalition to even implement a draft so they can prepare to go to war with Russia, when asked about the massive Ukrainian corruption problem, Emmanuel Macron was like, hey, man, it's not our place. Like, how much of a damning omission is this? Look at this headline I had up for a while. Emmanuel Macron said it's not France's place to teach Ukraine about corruption. They're like, motherfucker, do you know what we're involved with? He's like, bro, do you understand the kind of corruption that France, the UK, and the United States is involved with? Like, Ukrainian corruption is amateur hour compared to what we get away with. Do you understand that we stole untold billions of dollars of resources from Haiti? We enslaved their people in Haiti, and then they had an uprising against us and freed themselves from our shackles, and then we forced them to pay reparations to us after we enslaved them. We forced Haiti to pay reparations to us, and you guys think we should lecture Ukraine on corruption? Us, France, the country that was funding and enabling the theft of Africa, the carving up of Africa, and the murder of many, many freedom fighters in Africa. Yeah, this is what. So we won mine, my friend. You have France killing African revolutionaries, and then Emmanuel Macron, like, you asking me about corruption? You know we don't give a fuck about that. I was actually shocked that he just said it. Macron said it's not France's place to teach Ukraine about anti-corruption. Of course, I actually kind of agree with that statement. I think it's very damning, though. This is why Emmanuel Macron had to cheat to prevent the left wing from winning. This is why he lost his majority. This is why the Zelensky curse exists. All these Europeans seeing these European leaders fighting for Ukraine way harder than they are fighting for their own citizens. There's a massive energy crisis in Europe. Energy prices in Europe has skyrocketed. Quality of life has continued to go down. Meanwhile, the only thing, and I mean the only thing the European leaders are talking about is how we got to defend Ukraine. What more can we give Ukraine? Why can't we fight World War III on behalf of Ukraine? Now, Emmanuel Macron is talking about forming a coalition of the willing. Is he talking about forming a coalition of the willing of like-minded European countries coming together, bringing academic scholars together in order to solve the problem of poverty? Is that what Emmanuel Macron is worried about? Are they holding these massive meetings and holding these think tank initiatives in order to solve the dropping quality of life for European countries, how they've been completely deindustrialized, how the working class is falling behind? No. Their coalition of the willing is all about making security guarantees for Ukraine. And Ukraine has been exposed in such a massive way. Here's Zelensky essentially blaming Russia. Because so his chief of staff, the guy that Zelensky will publicly defend, said he was his number one, his trustworthy agent, they were caught with safes full of cash like cartoon villains. They might as well had a bag that had the word cash written on it throw it on their back and then run away. Like, like them cartoon thieves. That's what the Ukrainian officials are doing. They was buying like massive real estate across Europe, and then people were looking at it like, bro, we can see you. What are you doing? But look, it's Russia that is eager for Ukraine to make mistakes. So your top boy embezzling hundreds of millions of dollars that is meant to go to the energy sector. So you have Ukrainians that was facing massive blackouts. You guys know the Ukrainian working class is making a lot of sacrifices on behalf of NATO. So as Ukrainians are suffering, as they are witnessing a massive drop in their quality of life, as they're making sacrifices in order to appease NATO or whatever, you have these Ukrainian oligarchs just siphoning resources that are supposed to go to their energy infrastructure. That's what this whole scandal is all about. We sent over $100 million that's supposed to go to energy infrastructure, and they just yanked it. Ukraine makes we just making little mistakes. Our corruption is just a little bit of mistakes. Russia is eager for Ukraine to make mistakes. We won't make any. You already did. Our work goes on. Our struggle goes on. We have no right to fall short, no right to retreat or turn on each other. Look at this. You guys see these? Oh my God, these self-absorbed politicians. So if we hold your corruption accountable, that's you view it as Ukrainians turning on one another. No, you guys betrayed the Ukrainian people the second you guys engage in corruption. I will actually, if I want to go that route, you can say that Zelensky betrayed the Ukrainian people the second that he decided to give power to the Banderite Nazis in Ukraine. When the Ukrainian regime decided to side with Victoria Nuland and John McCain. So obviously we can go way back about the betrayal. How about when you burned all those workers alive in Odessa during the Odessa massacre? Y'all see the chat? What's popping? We got people on Twitch too. Y'all see the chats? I don't have a producer, so I'll mostly just be ranting, sharing stories on my own. I do need to read more of the chat. It be moving too fast sometimes though. Look, we got people on Twitch. What's popping? Like, our Twitch is slowly growing. Holy shit! How many people actually got on Twitch right now? We got damn near over 500 people watching across platforms. So we're growing, man. We're growing, guys. It's happening. Let me read some comments, man. I need to read more chats from you guys. You guys not always read Zoya comments. Zoya's love, Zoya's life. France mad at Russia and China for fair trade and development in Africa. They're losing their colonies and are broke. This is a fantastic point by Zoya. So Emmanuel Macron wants to confront Russia and destroy Russia because their idea is that we're not going to defeat Russia, but they want to weaken Russia. And I think that's in retaliation of countries like Burkina Faso, who kicked France out, and they are more than happy to do business with Russia. It's so much so. Let me see I wonder if they had another article about this. Because they always say how Russia has propaganda campaigns in Africa. Russia propaganda, Africa. That's their code. Because the African people are deciding that the West is... Look at this fucking ridiculous headline. This is from France's CNN. This is like the CNN of France. Russian propaganda, how Moscow uses disinformation in Africa. As if Africans need a reason to dislike the West. The audacity of these propagandists. They like, man, Nick is just repeating Russian propaganda. They said the same thing about Chairman Amali. Remember, the Biden administration tried to lock up Chairman Amali for over 20 years for opposing the Ukraine proxy war. Apparently, black men have no reason to oppose the imperialist actions of the West, if not for Russia. Oh, it's Germany? All right, my bad, guy. Yeah, it is Germany. It is Germany. You guys are right. I misspoke. You guys are 100% right. Who is France? Which one is the France nickname? Who's the France? I'm blanking on the France one. That's the one I usually watch a lot to see what Europe is talking about. But yeah, DW 100% German. You guys are right. Mostly the same shit. So I don't know if this is even in English. And not even that. I pretty much. So Zelensky apparently is going to rework the entire office of the presidency. This is what he pledged because of the corruption scandal. He said we're going to completely rework. Yeah, French 21. That's what I'm thinking of. I watch French 21 a lot on YouTube in order to understand how the Europeans are thinking. And bro, and they are batshit crazy. You guys know I have a clip from my favorite, probably my favorite politician, period, Kaja Kallas. Like, I'm gonna show you guys what she's saying here soon. I know Jamarl Thomas should be joining us here very soon. I can't wait to get his thoughts on this. Here's Sky News. Sky News is Australia, right? Like, I watch all these neocons. It's fascinating me how absolutely crazy the West has gone. And it's crazy to me. You guys know I hate the fucking United States left. I had a whole meltdown stream on Friday. Had a meltdown stream complaining about Zoran Mamdani and the Western left, who never critiques Europe, never critiques Australia. And I am watching this neocon media. I watch Sky News lie about the genocide in Gaza. Sky News and the insane traitors in Australia was smearing people who protested for genocide, called for the arrest of anyone who opposed the state of Israel. Like, Sky News is literally like is a Nazi news network. Sky News is the same organization that supports Australia sending nuclear submarines to Japan in order to prepare for war with China. And Sky News have been running nonstop propaganda to their own people to convince them to support war with China because the West plans on using Australia as a major front in this war. So Sky News is another pro-war, Zionist-controlled, Zionist-enabled news outlet. And just like all of the European state-ran nonsense, neocon, batshit crazy news outlets, they have been lying to their supporters about Ukraine this entire time. Like, according to Sky News, according to BBC, according to France 21, according to the DW, the reason why we have to fight in Ukraine is for democracy. Even though Zelensky is an unelected leader, they haven't held elections. In the light of this corruption scandal, Zelensky said, I'm going to rework my government. We're going to completely rework our government. We're going to hire new officials. We're going to have new mechanisms of accountability. Hey, fam, you want to know when that is supposed to happen? The whole reworking of your administration is supposed to happen after an election, after you get the mandate of the people. But they won't do that because if you hold an election in Ukraine, Zelensky's going to be out. So here's Sky News, and we have Jamarl Thomas. I can't wait to get his thoughts on this massive Ukrainian corruption scandal. We're also going to get to Venezuela here very soon. Jamarl, I'm going to bring you in. Let's watch the clip first. Now I'm going to give you your thoughts on it. Here's Sky News, and I really wish I had time to show you guys the BBC News coverage of the Zelensky corruption. Bro, you can feel their hearts breaking. You can feel the sadness and the just shock that the reality of Ukraine was exposed.
A lot of breaking news.
This is them reporting on the corruption scandal in Ukraine because they can't hide it from it no more.
A lot of breaking news coming to us from out of Ukraine. Now, you will know that there has been a corruption scandal engulfing that man's administration, President Volodymyr Zelensky. In the last few minutes, officials have reported that the anti-corruption authorities, that is NABU, have carried out searches of President Zelensky's offices. That's according to officials there.
Well, yes, and as we're saying, Ukraine has been caught up in this damaging corruption scandal. Anti-corruption agencies have been talking about how they believe that some of President Zelensky's close associates could be involved in some kind of plot. The thought is that perhaps money has been skimmed off Ukraine's energy sector. And this scandal erupting, of course, while Ukrainians are suffering blackouts caused by Russian bombing. So
how isn't there massive anger because of that? So the ordinary Ukrainians are suffering from blackouts as Zelensky just in his inner circle just robbing the West. And then Emmanuel Macron, Friedrich Merz, and our politicians have the nerve to then come to us and say, hey, we should send more aid to the country that is massively corrupt, and we had no way to account for any of where this aid is going. All right, let me finish this video up, and we got a great treat. I have my friend Jamarl who will be joining, who does great coverage on these kind of things. So I'm interested in getting his perspective. Let's finish this video up.
That investigation is underway. So this latest development is that officials are now saying that those anti-corruption authorities are conducting searches of President Zelensky's chief of staff.
Yeah, it centers around that energy company, Energy-Atom, and the main focus of this is one of President Zelensky's key allies, a man called Timur Mindic, who is accused of being involved in this scandal. He has fled Ukraine. He fled a couple of weeks ago. The authorities there want to speak to him, of course. But as we see from this latest line of reporting, these searches now right at the heart of the Kyiv administration in Zelensky's office. This has now come very, very close to the president. We'll get more details, of course, on this throughout the day here on Sky News.
Why are they reporting this like someone died? You guys see the somberness in their voice. They talking about this like the way that we talk about the genocide in Gaza. This is like a genocide in Gaza for them. This might as well be a genocide. This has been awful for the NATO propagandists. But before I continue, we have an amazing guest. My friend, you guys know Jamarl Thomas. He's killing the game. Amazing geopolitical reporter, citizen journalist. Thank you for joining us on RBN once again. Thank you, Jamarl Thomas. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing all right, man. How's it going?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. We had a great chat on your channel, man. I had a blast. I remember I was on your channel not too long ago. That hour just flew by. You know, we cover the geopolitics. You do a lot of great work. You have a lot of high-level guests on that educate your audience. You guys do amazing work on your channel. And I know you covered the massive Ukrainian corruption scandal and the European reaction to this. I want to get your thoughts on the state of the Ukrainian war. You have Emmanuel Macron meeting with Zelensky, pledging this European coalition of the willing to pledge for never-ending war against Russia. So thank you for joining me once again, Jamarl. It's great to talk to you. Any thoughts on this massive corruption scandal that's rocking the Zelensky government?
You know, the funny part about the corruption scandal is that it's a current scandal. Like, let's put this in context, right? Ukraine is probably the most corrupt country on the face of the earth. Don't take my word for it. It is understood to be one of the most corrupt countries on the face of the earth. You have Nabu and Sapo that are the dog that didn't bark, that is supposed to be ostensibly there for corruption reasons, meaning the entire point of the organizations are supposed to be for corruption. And this war has been going on for like 4 years. Hundreds of billions of dollars have been flooding through Ukraine. And they're like, hey, we found gambling in this establishment like a month ago, right? And it's like, okay, this looks absurd. The idea that after hundreds of billions of dollars have been going through Ukraine, and the only thing they found was skimming off the top of like $100 billion is outrageous. It's nonsense, right? Yeah. So obviously, this is the Trump administration putting the thumbs to Zelensky, like just pressuring the administration in and of itself, with obviously large corruption being completely ignored. The notion that this is what they found is absurd.
Yeah,
and they've been whittling their way closer and closer to Zelensky. Yermak, chief of staff, is out at this point, fired. Apparently there was a screaming match. He was like, nobody is defending me. This is a betrayal. He's out. Mendrix flees the country. Multiple people around Zelensky effectively either are out or fled the country itself. In fact, Umarov, the suspicion was that he fled the country, but he's holding negotiations in Florida. So this is pressure, let's say, on the internal political structure, while simultaneously a failing military campaign that is failing monstrously. Anytime you see Putin in camo, like when Putin is wearing fatigues, all hell breaks loose. Like he's not in fatigues for no reason. Usually he's in fatigues to announce something big. Cruse has just fallen. And what you're going to see are multiple areas like Peril, Severus, Kupiansk has already fallen, Minograd. You're going to see these places back to back to back to back, effectively falling, leaving Kramatorsk as being the last, let's say, bastion of defense standing in the Donetsk, at which all hell breaks loose. I mean, that's the last defensive line that Ukraine effectively has. So not only is there a corruption scandal that is just wreaking havoc on Ukraine, not only is there energy grid effectively destroyed, as the BBC noted in that case, not only are they like $50-60 billion budget shortfall, which is the reason why Europe, like a bunch of howler monkeys trying to get their hands on the Russian money, basically trying to steal the money because they can't afford it themselves. They're screwed. They're screwed. And so you get the Trump administration coming out saying, all right, we have a 28-point plan that's a dead letter that we're going to try to sell. And they continuously miss this point that losers don't get to dictate terms.
Exactly.
You knocked over a government. And then, like, one of the provisions in the document is that Europe is supposed to put $100 billion up that it doesn't have, and that Russia is supposed to take $100 billion of its money to invest in the U.S. so Trump can get some kind of kickback, which is like nonsense. The United States overthrows a government in 2014, taking down Yanukovych. All of this is sparked from that. You have the Minsk agreements that are entirely blown off. Angela Merkel, Hollande both noted that this was, they tricked Putin in this. And a deal that was supposed to end the war was effectively used in order to propagate and initiate a larger war. And yet Trump has the balls to turn around and says, and by the way, I'm going to make a profit on top of all of this. So they're in talks with Ukraine in Florida. Ukraine is still being obstinate. It's like, nope, we're not doing this. We're not doing that. Dude, look at the look at the map, right? Like, we're not. Putin has made it very clear. You don't have to accept the deal. We can settle this on the battlefield. You have hundreds of thousands of people that have deserted. I've already noted the budget shortfall. I've already noted the political crisis. But beyond everything else, militarily, you are running out of human beings to throw into the wood chipper as effectively chum in the water. This is not a situation that is sustainable. It's just obvious, right? And so I don't know, like Witkoff is apparently going to Moscow and have a conversation with Putin. Putin is going to be very polite, as he always is. He's going to be very diplomatic as he tells him no.
Yeah.
And the no is going to be, hey, this is a basis for negotiation. And we can painstakingly talk about all of this stuff as we continue to wrap up what we need to do on the battlefield militarily. That's what's going to happen.
And who is giving these Ukrainian officials advice? Like, I heard a Ukrainian speaker of the House that said, we're not going to start fighting until we take back Crimea. Like Crimea has been on the table for years, fam. And that's the Ukrainian speaker of the House. It's not a random guy. This is what all the Ukrainian people are saying. They are completely delusional, and they will go down in history as people who destroy their country. And for what? So Ukraine can become a NATO country? How is that even worth it? When have we ever seen a country that is a quote-unquote victim of war be so resistant towards peace? For example, if you look at Gaza, the Palestinians have every single right to want to fight for their land. International law dictates that they have the right to fight for a one-state solution, the two-state solution, or whatever, their sovereignty. But despite the fact that they have the legal right to fight against the Israeli regime, you got to notice how all the people in Gaza celebrate ceasefires, despite all the crimes that Israel committed against them, despite all the family members that they murdered, despite the fact that their infrastructure was completely destroyed by the Zionist menace. They still cheer for peace. They cheer for ceasefire proposals, even when they know it's nonsense. Now compare that to the Ukrainians, who are doing everything they can to resist peace. And I want to get your thoughts on this, because you guys know I have to show a clip from one of the most delusional politicians. One of my favorite people to cover. I know you've seen her around. Kaja Kallas, the top
I love her. Oh, I love her. I love her to
she's
death.
great.
She's so beautiful and so dumb. I
Yeah.
have such a crush on her. She's like dumb as a box of rocks. And I have this joke on the channel where it's like, you're so smart. He's like, really? I'm so smart. You're so smart. Yeah.
Have you guys ever seen that movie Legally Blonde? Like that long time ago. Isn't it like about this woman who is forced to be like a lawyer because she's hot or something like that? That's how I feel like she is. Like they picture her they need a good looking representative for the EU.
Oh,
Dumb as dumb can be. She's the one that was like, I don't know if Russia and China, do they really have anything to do with defeating?
Yeah. Right.
But if you guys know it's bad, because the corporate media, I see corporate media articles ripping her because how she makes Europe look dumb. Like she's a gift for us. Like she's a gift for Russian propaganda. Russian propaganda, they love showing videos of her. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, here it is. Here Kaja Kallas doing everything she can to keep this war with Russia alive. Her father is a Nazi collaborator traitor, and she's following in the footsteps. Here it is. Oh, sorry, let me unmute it here.
With the defense ministers of the European Union, and we have two broad topics. One is how to further support Ukraine, and the other one is on our own defense readiness and defense.
Am I the only one who furious out there? You guys see how they having these high level meetings. This is the point I made earlier before. But they have these high level meetings to determine how we're going to defend Ukraine, not how we're going to solve poverty, the energy crisis. You guys see, they don't give a single fuck about their people. And by the way, who elected this person? That's what I want to know. Who elected her? What election did she win? Well, let's continue.
Capabilities that we need to build up. It is clear that Russia does not want peace, and therefore we need to make Ukraine as stronger as possible in order to them to be ready to stand up for themselves in this very, very difficult time. It could be a pivotal week for diplomacy. We heard yesterday that the talks in America were difficult but productive. We don't know the results yet, but I will talk to the defense minister of Ukraine and as well as foreign minister of Ukraine today. Thank you.
You notice who she's not talking to? Marco Rubio. They were like, Marco Rubio, you want to meet with Kaja Kallas? He was like, I'm good.
Because they're pointless. Like the Europeans are pointless. I don't even know why. I'm always astonished that these comments come out of Europe. These are the most pointless, irrelevant people in the process. They're not even in the process. And I keep thinking to myself, is she the smartest person in Estonia? Is Estonia just Planet of the Apes? I can't believe that this is the goofball who they have talking for them and saying some of the dumbest things. Recently she said something to the effect of, she says Russia, nobody invaded Russia over the course of the last 100 years. And it's like, dude, your grandfather was a Nazi.
Yeah.
Are you being serious right now? Like the stuff that she says, it's astonishing. And yet, barely a military. Obviously couldn't stand up to the Russians if you gave them all the money in the world to do so. Couldn't even supply the weapons. They have to buy them from the United States. Can't supply the war on their own devices, in which case they need Trump to remain in the mix. These are the most pointless, irrelevant people on the planet Earth. And yet they make these statements.
Yeah, Estonia, they got 5,000 people.
Yeah, it's nobody's in Estonia, right? Oh, by the way, there's a difference between, for one, Gaza is not a military. Meaning Israel is military with nuclear weapons, fighter jets, air defense, etc. Hamas is a resistance group. There's a difference in those things. Hamas is let's say Palestinians are being occupied. Ukraine is a proper military that has all the backing of NATO with hundreds of billions of dollars flowing in their coffers with air defense, fighter jets, and everything else backing them as they fight a war with Russia. These are two very different things. And even in the context of Ukraine defending themselves, look, Ukraine was overtaken by the actual government of Ukraine. Their sovereignty was up in smoke in 2014, meaning whatever sovereignty they had was over with when the putsch just overthrew that government. In which case, they got rid of political parties, they banned the Russian language, they eliminated any notion of representation from the standpoint of East Ukraine. They acted as if Eastern Ukraine wasn't part of Ukraine because they were ethnic Russian Ukrainians. Like, this is not, like, these two things are not like the other, just to point out.
Yeah. I'm going to show you, there's another one. And she is so Russia. So, she is so Russia-phobic that she was asked about, why aren't you guys interested in peace with Russia the same way Donald Trump is? And she had like damn near, like she had a physical reaction at even the idea of negotiating with peace. This is a complete psychopath that is considered the top diplomat of Europe. And just like you, Jamarl, I'm a big fan of her. I hope they never replace her.
I just want to stay there forever. Yeah.
Wouldn't be at this point perhaps useful to open direct negotiation with Moscow and send there kind of a European Witkoff? Thank you.
European Witkoff.
Wow. Have you considered negotiating for peace? She's like, you guys see that? Well, she's such a psychopath. Even the idea of peace make her physically ill.
Thank you.
It's like, what?
Well, everybody has been very clear, especially the Russians, that they have no interest in peace right now. So again, I mean, we need to put them in the position where they need to negotiate. Right now, they are not in that position because they think that they can outlast us, and they also hope that there's a very good offer made because they see that there's a lot of pressure to put on the victim, but none really sacrifices asked from them. At least we don't know that any of the sacrifices have been asked for them. So clearly, I mean, they want to negotiate with those who are just offering them something on top of what they already have. This is clearly their interest, but it shouldn't be ours.
I love how she described how negotiating works. There's not a single brain cell. There's not a single independent thought going through this bimbo's head. Like, you describe how negotiation works. You need to concede something in order to win a war. I mean, in order to end the war. And she says, well, Russia is just thinking about outlasting us. Hey, have you done the math here? We have a bigger country. We have a bigger country with more people and more resources. Guess who's going to last longer in warfare? Jamarl, any last thoughts on her before we move on?
I mean, it's like, check the scoreboard, right? Like Ukraine has gone through, like 3 different militaries. They've done all of this stuff, right? You've given them all the weapons. You've given them all the money. You have dumped ungodly sums of weapons and resources and propaganda. And they are losing more and more territory faster than they have at any point in the war. What are you giving them now? Like, meaning what else are you going to pull out of your pocketbook in order to give these people that is going to somehow change the context of the war? Nothing. We're going to fight to the last dead Ukrainian. That's what it is. And if Europe wants to throw Europeans into the wood chipper following this incompetent woman, then that's where they go. There's nothing that they're going to give Ukraine that's going to change anything on the ground. She's out of her mind.
These people are dangerous, man.
They're very dangerous.
There's a reason why people who are not even 100% consistent in calling out Western missteps and Western periods, like people like Lula in Brazil, have been calling out Europe. They're like, why are you guys tanking the global economy in order to wage this war with Russia when everyone would benefit? What is the long-term plan of them telling their people over and over again that Russia doesn't want to negotiate? We got to take this time. We got to take this time to force Russia to come to terms. Now, I get to the segment I have in the title. You have these insane conversations. I don't know if you've seen these, Jamarl, but you have NATO that is floating the idea of a preemptive strike. So NATO is going to strike Russia first, and they're going to say, "Oh, it's self-defense." that's their strategy. Listen to this insanity. U.S. envoy to meet Putin in Moscow as NATO consider preemptive strike. And this pairs with the fact that France and Emmanuel Macron, remember, Emmanuel Macron is trying to position himself as like the European leader in waging this war against Russia. Look at this. France create voluntary military service as Europe faces Russian threats. You had EU officials who even floated the idea of having a draft. So you guys see where this is going? When they're not able to find any more Ukrainian men to kidnap off the streets, that they plan to taking this war with Russia to the finale. And the NATO left have no. What do you guys think what happened to the global economy in the full-fledged war with NATO and Europe against Russia? And then obviously China probably had to get involved if Russia is existentially threatened. We are looking at the World War III battlegrounds being laid out in real time, being also escalated by the United States assault on Venezuela. And Russia obviously like, are you guys out of your damn mind? That's what this headline says in a nutshell. Russia says NATO remarks on preemptive strike are irresponsible and escalatory. You think? You think? They said we want it all. Here's our friend Trey Boyles. NATO is considering preemptive strikes on Russia, calls it defensive. And he posted the map showing exactly why Russia is worried about NATO. This is the NATO. For the people who haven't seen, you guys see NATO's plan to never-endingly expand into Russian territory. Now, me personally, I know people like, Nick, you're so pro-Russia. Let's break this down for a second, okay? You're the Russian people, and you have a history of people evading through Ukraine. You had millions of people wiped out by the Nazis who invaded through Ukraine. You had Napoleon, who was a genocidal maniac who thought he was God, marched to Ukraine and murdered a ton of Russians because he believed he's God and he believed the earth belonged to him. Napoleon is a psychopath. Like one of the greatest military generals we ever seen, but he's a straight up psychopath. And then you have the West funding multiple genocides, a genocide in Gaza, genocide in Sudan. You see the West is obsessed with completely destroying entire regions. So it's not like these people are fucking pacifists. Jamarl. Yep. These people have a history of violence and war. The history of Europe is the history of them killing each other. So, of course, you see this blue stack up to your border. You guys wouldn't be concerned about that either? I know I would. Yeah. Now, I'm sorry, this be live down share on this thing, man. But just because I found it hilarious. And I think it's very revealing. Here's Michael McFaul. One of the biggest Ukraine war supporters. And isn't it interesting that the people that support the invasion of Ukraine also support the genocide in Gaza? And now they're supportive of the United States invading Venezuela. It's almost like it's an axis of evil of some sort, Jamal. Here's Michael McFaul. And we quickly covered this. I know you don't have a ton of time, Jamal, but we quickly covered the Venezuela angle here. But here's Michael McFaul. This would be my way to transition into it. Maduro is an illegitimate leader. He lost the last election. He needs to go. So here are the Ukrainian propagandists supporting the war in Venezuela. And I am unapologetic. You guys see these evil psychopaths? This is why I root for Russia over these maniacs. I don't hide that. I don't hide the fact that I, as a black man, is way more comfortable allying with a country that had nothing to do with the slave trade versus people who colonized and destroyed Africa. How is that even controversial to say when you have psychopaths like Michael McFaul calling for the mass death of Venezuelans because they voted in a way that he didn't like? So, Jamal, I know I had a few things I want to share here, but any reaction, anything you want to add to this, Jamal?
Yeah, I mean, it's called being consistent. Like, it's not this, I always make this argument sitting on the moon looking at events. And if you're just being consistent saying, well, you've expanded to the border of Russia after saying you're not going to move an inch to the east. You've overthrown a government on their border. And then you get like the William Burns memo that pointed out net means net, where Burns back in 2008 forecast everything that happens, meaning all of this stuff was infinitely foreseeable. And yet you get the media saying, oh my God, how could anybody have foreseen that this is going to take place? And then so being consistent and saying, why are you messing around their borders? And what would we tolerate what the U.S. is effectively doing and what Europe is effectively doing? Well, obviously we had the Cuban Missile Crisis where we wouldn't tolerate. We were willing to end the world in the Cuban Missile Crisis in order to prevent this kind of expansion of, let's say, the Soviet Union into Cuba. And yet the roles all of a sudden change. And then you get a situation where the U.S. has decided to murder random people in boats in the Caribbean. And on top of murdering those people in boats, saying, we are going to forcibly remove Maduro. And we're going to do so because of, quote unquote, drugs, as we pardon Hernandez, who's sitting in prison, who wanted to get cocaine into the nose of every gringo, quote unquote, according to the New York Times. Like, this is outrageous, right? Nobody believes this. They're like, hey, that speedboat we blew up was coming to America. A speedboat that would need to refuel 8 times to get to the United States. Who is in a speedboat going from Venezuela to America? And yet they're like, yeah, man, but they're bringing drugs in speedboats. And so, we had to kill him. Trump has murdered like 80 people. And they're giving Hegseth shit about the guy who they double tapped, where they blew up a boat that was illegal in the first place. And then when people were hanging on the side of the boat, murdered the people who were hanging off the side of the boat. And it's like, hey, man, that second tap was illegal.
Your mic muted, Jamal. Probably on accident. Yeah, make sure you check your mic. But there's a reason why Pete Hess says, why you figuring that out, Jamal? We have Israel bombing hospitals, engaging in double tap strikes all the time. What's a little double tap on a boat? You got to see how Israel normalizing and completely the destruction of international law has devastating consequences. I think maybe something happened to Jamal's mic. I think we still can't hear you. I don't know what. I think there may be a connection issue.
There we are. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the mic flaked out on me. I mean, it's not even the Gaza thing, right? Like, look, I am one of those people who said there's no such thing as international law. Sure. There is no Leviathan. There's nothing above anything else that would force countries to behave in certain ways. Gaza is a really good indication of that, if nothing else. And this kind of just wanton murder of people in the Caribbean is a clear indication that there is no such thing as international law, meaning there is nothing that is coming to the aid of anybody in this situation. The Trump administration is using a fig leaf, kind of like weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, but even a worse version of it, to effectively say, hey, I need you to leave because we need to steal your resources. What? Yeah. Like that's astonishing. And the public is like anesthetized. And I guess my issue with this stuff is like, as Trump has been murdering people in the Caribbean, they're taking issue with the double tap. Like, meaning they're not taking issue with the murder of people randomly that they didn't even know who they were murdering. They're taking issue with the fact that, well, after you did the first illegal hit, you hit them again in order to murder people that were hanging off the side of the boat after you blew the boat up. And it's like, oh, well, that part is outrageous. So none of this other stuff is. You've been killing all of these people. That's not the outrageous part. It's the part that you willfully hunted down 2 people who were most likely innocent, that you had no idea who they were, and you hit them twice. Like, all of this stuff is completely outrageous. And yet, will there be consequences for it? No.
They're gangsters, man.
Yeah.
They're gangsters. Like, they're sending a message, guys. I think this is on purpose. Like, people are like, man, I can't believe Donald Trump would contradict himself like this. Yeah, see, this is the New York Times. The ex-president whom Trump plans to pardon flooded America with cocaine. You guys see how there was the Guardian headline I put up earlier where they're like, man, Donald Trump. Here, I'll put it up again just in case you guys missed it. Look, Trump's pardon of Honduras ex-president shows counter-drug efforts is based on the lies and hypocrisy. You don't think so? You think? Of course.
We put Hernandez in. We put him in. If you remember, during the Obama administration, what is his name? Zelenskys was president of Honduras. Hillary Clinton had him escorted out in his pajamas and was like, well, that's not a coup at all when the military escorts the president out in their pajamas. Hernandez was a guy who they effectively put in. And then they eventually was like, well, that guy's a narco kingpin. We obviously got to get rid of him. And they had him extradited, if I'm not mistaken, to New York and prosecuted. He was sitting in jail. And now Trump is like, well, it was a witch hunt by Joe Biden. It was a witch hunt.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
Yeah, and the reason why they're so audacious with this, they're sending you a message. The ruling class is sending you a message that they don't have to fucking lie to you peasants. You think I got to make a coherent story to justify my acts of imperialism? If I want to go to Venezuela and fuck Venezuela up, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I'm going to tell you some bullshit, and then I'm going to let you know that it was bullshit. So this is a message sent by the ruling class. That's how I'm interpreting it, Jamarl. So when they pardon someone who's known to be a drug lord president while claiming they're attacking someone who's a drug lord, that is them sending you a message that they don't even have to say shit that makes sense. They will say something and you will fall in line. That's what I think this is. I think a lot of people are misinterpreting this story. I think this is just a pure power flex by the office of the presidency to let you know that truth doesn't matter. Whatever they say, whatever their lies will become canon, or you will become an enemy of the state. It's straight up gangster behavior. And that's why they prop up this gangster. I'm gonna go through I'm gonna go through a few quick receipts while I still have you, Jamal. This will be nearly our last part here. But here's another gangster who admits what she's doing. Like on one end, when they talk to the liberal establishment, this is why I love watching like right-wing propaganda. And this is why Democrats and liberals annoy the shit out of me, because you know for a fact that Kamala Harris won the election. They be talking about how this is all about democracy. The same with Venezuela, the same with Ukraine. When they said the Ukraine war is all about democracy. And then when Trump took office, Lindsey Graham went on Fox News like, nah, nigga, this shit about the rare earth minerals. Have you guys ever heard about rare earth minerals?
Right. It's like, don't get it twisted.
Maybe I'm an asshole, but I prefer the straight up honest Republican who just straight up tell you this shit had nothing to do with human rights. Don't give a fuck about any of this shit. We want the oil. And here's the opposition leader, Maria Machado, who I said from the beginning, one of the worst mistakes they made was giving her a Nobel Peace Prize. And they are regretting it. And I'm going to show you guys why they're regretting it.
Forget about Saudi Arabia. Forget about the Saudis. I mean, we have more oil. I mean, infinite potential. And we're going to open markets. We're going to kick off the government from the oil sector. We are going to privatize all our industry. Venezuela has huge resources: oil, gas, minerals, land, technology. And as you said before, we have a strategic location, hours from the United States. So we're going to do this right. We know what we have to do. And American companies are in, super strategic position to invest. This country, Venezuela, is going to be the brightest opportunity for investment of American companies, of good people that are going to make a lot of money.
This is a big stream. This is Donald Trump Jr. on Rumble. And then everyone saw this interview, and we was like, hey, we can see you, right? We can hear what you are saying. Like, this is not what you're going to be saying. When I told you guys when they gave her the Nobel Peace Prize, I told you guys I loved it. This is a person that they should have kept in the back as a secret swamp monster who would have took charge afterwards, but they can't help themselves. And now you guys see the neoliberal regret. Like, here's the New York Times. Even the New York Times, and I can show you so more, like even like European media outlets, like, hey man, the fuck is up with Maria Machado? You're giving away the whole game. It's the same thing with the Ukrainian officials when they laugh at their amateur corruption. She's an amateur propagandist, fam. I told you guys before, I think people like Fareed Zakaria on CNN is brilliant. Bro, he tricked so many boomers to fall for every single war. I believe he's a brilliant propagandist. There's many others on American corporate media that I think they do a really good job tricking Americans. But Maria Machado is not even remotely believable. Like when when she speaks about Venezuela. That's why they are releasing these articles almost like as a warning to her. Like, hey, you see, you kind of fucking up here. Yeah, Christine Amanpour, she's another one. I think she's really good. Like, she know how to sell a war. Then whenever you see her, these like the good neocons compared to like a Kaja Kallas, like compared to, I put Kaja Kallas in the same category as Maria Corina Machado. Here's the headline article for people who are only listening. Venezuela Nobel winner pushes false claims about Maduro. Fam, do you know how unhinged she had to be for the New York Times?
I was thinking the same thing. I was sitting there thinking the same thing. For the New York Times to be like, whoa, that's a little too far.
Like, whoa, bitch, what the fuck are you talking about? You ruining this for us. Here's another one. I'm going to give you guys a few quick examples. I'll bring you in, Jamal. We're getting near the end of this. Here's another example of why I love right-wing propaganda. They just say the quiet part out loud. Like, you realize that we can see you. You realize that everyone around the world can see you and what you're saying. So this is another example. They're just saying the quiet part out loud. Anyway, let me play the clip.
I'm in touch and in contact with Maria Corina Machado, who is the legitimate president of Venezuela, and they are ready within 100 days after they're liberated. They know what they need to do. I mean, Venezuela had a very strong democracy before these thugs took power. That was only 25 years ago. They have the largest reserves of oil in the world. They are more than willing to negotiate and to be working with the oil companies, the American oil companies. So it's not going to be difficult. 80% of the Venezuelans voted against Maduro. Not only that, they have risen many times, general strikes for years. So the Venezuelans are ready to be liberated and not to be a hub for drugs coming into the United States. And I salute President Trump. I'm the chairman of the Western Hemisphere Subcommittee within the House Foreign Affairs Committee. I know that area very well, and they are going to be clapping Venezuela.
We will be greeted as liberators, Jamal. When have we heard this? We'll be greeted as liberators. The country is decided for us to take over. If you are a fucking boomer falling for the same shit we've seen our entire life, this is the war on terror all over again. They repeating the same talking points. And how does the amount of oil, what does that have to do even with the conversation? Doesn't that say everything? Here's Donald Trump back. This is going viral. This is resurfaced. Did Trump last year? It mean the real reason why he went to wage war with Venezuela.
We're buying oil from Venezuela. When I left, Venezuela was ready to collapse. We would have taken it over. We would have gotten all that oil. It would have been right next door. But now we're buying oil from Venezuela, so we're making a dictator very rich. Can you believe this? Nobody can believe it. You know where the oil, their oil is garbage. It's horrible. The worst you can get, tar. It's like tar. And to refine it, you need special plants. And these people, how about
if you believe the official narrative about why the United States is getting involved in Venezuela, you are a complete rube. And everyone should be calling this nonsense out. You want to know who's not? You want to know who boot I'm going to continue to keep on my neck? And this is on live video now. I know you're short on time, Jamal.
I know who. Go ahead. I know you. Yeah.
So instead of educating his followers about the United States ambitions in Venezuela, you want to know what this scumbag, this Hakeem Jeffries Democrat is doing?
I wonder if you're reluctant to call them dictators in Cuba and Venezuela.
I'm not reluctant. I just haven't thought about them that often. I'll be honest with you. I think that Maduro's government is one of repression. There's no question about it. And I think
it's in Cuba.
Sorry?
And also it's happening in Cuba since 1959.
And I think that the repression that, whether we're speaking about Cuban New Yorkers or Venezuelan New Yorkers, that they have had to live through is a repression that stands in a clear contrast from what our vision is.
I said it 1,000 times. Nicolas Maduro has been way too kind to his opposition. Meanwhile, Mondani is like, oh my God, don't you know that Nicolas Maduro is repressing his opposition? You mean the opposition that sided with the CIA and tried to overthrow their country? Hey, fam, if we did a fraction of what Maria Machado and their opposition did, we'll be rotting in Guantanamo Bay right now. Meanwhile, Zoran Mamdani wants to let you know how much he condemns it. He's a socialist, Jamarl, who never thought about Venezuela. He never thought about Cuba. He don't have no lesson to learn from these countries. He never thought about Hugo Chavez. Never thought about the Cuban embargo. That's what he wanted us to believe, Jamarl. But we can wrap up on this. I know I shared a lot of video. I was trying to get through a lot quickly here. But Jamarl, any final thoughts? Any final reactions?
That's a goddamn shame, Bumandani. That's a goddamn shame. Like, it's one thing for him to say, like, this is not the brand of socialism that I want, because that's effectively what he's trying to say, right? Like, hey, I know I call myself a socialist, but I'm different than that level of socialism communist. That's not who I am. That's not who I am. This is him dancing and distracting and everything else. The problem, well, there are several problems with it. For one, there is something sociopathic about the Trump administration making this choice to just this gangster presidency of I'm going to knock over government, I'm going to murder a lot of people, and I'm going to steal oil. That's pretty outrageous. And for Mamdani, who just went and glad-handed Trump, and then come back and is like, can't bring himself to say what the United States is doing is outrageous and illegal. That's the problem. That's just the problem. That's him being a politician, which just fucking sucks.
Yeah. I think I won't be continuing to hold these people foot to the fire. I think it's morally reprehensible to make this deal where you sell out the global South. You want to sell out Venezuelans who are under pressure to the imperial war machine for a rent freeze? That's all it took. That's all it took for you guys to sell out and play patty cake with a fucking genocidal monster who is still slaughtering Palestinians to this day. You guys. Like Mamdani and his supporters went to sleep, Jamarl. They heard the ceasefire proposal. They're like, yeah, this is great. We can start organizing with science again. They couldn't wait to put Gaza in the rearview mirror. I find it reprehensible. I wouldn't even agree to a rent freeze if it means organizing with someone like a King Jeffries. It's completely sick. But Jamarl, I know you got to get out of here. I want to give you any final thoughts. What's coming up next for a channel? I'll give you last word here, Jamarl. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, no, man. Always appreciate it, man. Anytime you want me. Jamarl Thomas show on YouTube. Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time or Eastern Time. Check me out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always great to have you on. Our conversations always very enlightening, man. You bring a lot of information and knowledge when we talk about these geopolitical affairs. So I definitely appreciate it. Thank you for joining us, Jamarl. Make sure you check out Jamarl Thomas on his channel. Does great interviews and has great work. Now let me go through a few of these super chats before we wrap up. Was there anything else I wanted to quickly cover? I think this is it. I end on that. There's still a little bit more I want to cover. I think I'll cover it on Wednesday. The Isaac Accords. Our friend DD Geopolitics, they've been doing a great job covering the Isaac Accords and how Israel has its plans to take over the entire world. They expand into Asia, now they're expanding into South America because they're planning on sucking out all the resources of the United States, taking all taxpayer money, and then once the United States collapses, they're gonna move on to another host, like the fucking parasites they are. To quote Jackson Hinkle, Kaja Callis, that's not even a real name. Much love, Nick and Jamarl. Appreciate the super chat. Thanks for the $5. The Citizen. The U.S. Marines have been intervening in the Caribbean since 1905 on behalf of U.S. imperialism. You guys know. Big shout out to my friend Jamarl. He does great work. I'm trying to get on Jamarl's level. You know what I mean? If you enjoy the show and want to help me get on that level, make sure you guys like and subscribe if you're new. You got my good friend Sarah from DD Geopolitics. She does great work as well. Here's Zoya's Love, Zoya's Life. First, we got a Latina Bernie, and now we get a Muslim AOC. I'll tell you, that's going to be their new strategy, guys, to get people back in the Democratic Party. They're going to find Arabs. They're going to find Arabs and other brown people who are mildly critical of the state of Israel, but still support their existence. And then they're going to be the face of the new Democratic Party where, even though leadership is still determined by the old white men in the party, they're going to have these people as the face, AOC as the face. That's the future of the Democratic Party, and people fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. I thought a lot of people was better than this, and I'm going to continue to drive these people. Like the DSA as an organization should be dead forever. after supporting Hakeem Jeffries. And what makes it sick, what makes DSA sick is they pretending that the genocide is over. You guys see how the DSA fake left? They want nothing more than this shit to be over so we can go back to the status quo and so we can organize with Zionists. They are the true Red Brown Alliance. And the DSA voting to support Hakeem Jeffries over a primary challenge, Zoran Mamdani supporting Hakeem Jeffries, that should be the hard red line that completely separates the DSA left from us forever. Forever. Palestinian organizations are not happy about it, by the way. There'll be more coming on this. Like, we got people organizing against this. Like, the fact that the United States left is willing to sell out, willing to support a genocidal policy for a rent freeze and free busing. Free busing is all it took for you to sell out Palestinians. The American left made me sick, guys. Anyway, I'll be back on Wednesday. Appreciate you guys. Have a good night. I hope you guys enjoy the stream. Make sure you support us on Patreon if you do. Make sure you guys subscribe to my new channel as well if you came over from the RBN.